From the outside, a person in deep meditation appears completely motionless, but beneath the skull, the brain is executing an aggressive, high-energy biological sequence. In popular culture, this practice is frequently prescribed as a way to escape stress, a mental nap, a passive relaxation technique to help you zone out. From a strict neuroscientific perspective, deep meditation is a high-intensity, active cognitive workout that forcibly alters human neurobiology. To understand how this works, we have to look at the brain as a biological machine responding to a specific input protocol. Phase 1 of this transformation is immediate. The brain's electrical networks undergo rapid modulation. Phase 2 involves the entire body. The brain adjusts its chemical output, forcing systemic neuroendocrine regulation across the circulatory system. Phase 3 is structural. The physical tissue of the brain physically remodels itself based on the repetition of the protocol. Treating meditation as a strict biological intervention forces us to re-evaluate our own hardware. We possess a manual override for our neurological limits. A normal, waking human brain has a specific default setting. Left to its own devices, it constantly simulates past mistakes and calculates future threats. This relentless self-referential processing requires immense metabolic resources. It is a measurable physical process, burning glucose to sustain itself. This visual highlights the specific biological hardware responsible for that mental chatter, the default mode network. When this network runs in overdrive, the resulting excessive activity correlates directly with clinical anxiety, chronic rumination, and severe stress disorders. An untrained mind lacks the ability to issue a stop command. The network runs automatically, looping through self-referential thought without permission. The first targeted effect of the meditative protocol is active downregulation of this specific hardware. Concentrating your attention forcibly starves the network of resources. The electrical footprint physically shrinks. This is a highly specific, targeted silencing. It is entirely different from the global, systemic shutdown the brain undergoes during sleep. Inner peace is a literal, physical state, the measurable deactivation of the exact neural network generating psychological distress. Structural networks only tell half the story. We also have to track the overall electrical frequency dictating human consciousness. This EEG visualization shows the standard waking state. The brain relies on beta waves, high-frequency, localized electrical patterns. Beta waves are optimized for survival. They are excellent for problem-solving, spiking rapidly in response to threats, but are energetically exhausting to sustain long-term. The meditation protocol triggers an immediate shift, dragging the baseline frequencies down into the slower alpha and theta bands. Alpha and theta frequencies shift the brain into a state of calm awareness. The brain devotes processing power to subconscious integration rather than external threat detection. This calming stage is an intermediate step. The ultimate goal of advanced practice pushes the brain into a completely different operational mode. This is known as gamma synchronization. It is a state of total, unbroken electrical unity across the cerebral cortex. Gamma waves physically link disparate brain regions. They represent a state of hyper-awareness and massive cognitive integration. Sitting completely still produces the highest energy, most synchronized electrical state the human brain is capable of generating. The brain does not power down during this shift. It enters a unified level of processing entirely inaccessible during normal waking life. Electrical synchronization creates a feedback loop, sending direct instructions down into the body's chemical factories. This map traces the HPA axis, the neuroendocrine bridge connecting brain to adrenal glands. Its primary job is pumping out the stress hormone cortisol. A brain in a chronic beta wave state keeps the HPA axis locked in survival mode. The system floods with accumulating cortisol. The meditative electrical shift acts as a manual override. It transmits a clear signal to the HPA axis to stand down. As the brain aborts the survival response, cortisol production drops out of the system. Physiological relief follows immediately. Heart rate plummets, blood pressure lowers, muscle tension dissolves. With the stress response cleared, a secondary chemical intervention takes over. The brain floods its own receptors with serotonin and dopamine, forcing emotional stability. The protocol replaces external pharmacology by using endogenous electrical signals to rewrite the body's chemical balance. It is an internal override of the endocrine system. Temporary electrical and chemical states eventually trigger the final phase, permanent physical alterations to the brain. Morphological neuroplasticity dictates that repeated neurological firing literally rebuilds the brain's physical architecture over time. The first major structural change is an observable physical increase in gray matter density. This model highlights where the physical growth occurs, specifically the prefrontal cortex and the hippocampus. Adding dense tissue to these exact coordinates upgrades executive function, creates sharper memory recall, and guarantees superior emotional regulation. While those regions grow, the brain's primitive threat detection hardware moves in the opposite direction. Consistent meditation forces the amygdala to structurally downgrade. It physically shrinks, rendering the brain far less reactive to fear and stress. By simultaneously bulking up executive control centers and shrinking fear circuitry, meditation achieves a literal architectural remodel of the hardware we use to perceive reality. This master 3D model visualizes a fully conditioned meditative mind. Directed attention kills the chaotic noise of the default mode network, shifting scattered, exhausting beta waves into hyper-efficient gamma synchronization. That distinct electrical efficiency chemically starves cortisol production, allowing the brain to devote resources to physically rebuilding its own gray matter over time. The external environment doesn't change, but the biological lens you use to process that environment is physically repaired. Because of neuroplasticity, these structural changes accumulate. Every single session is a biological repetition, adding permanent density to your cognitive baseline. It's an intentional, rigorous training regimen, pushing back against a modern default of chronic distraction and perpetual stress. The practice of sitting quietly provides a rigorous, scientifically validated protocol for architecting cognitive resilience.